Alright, welcome back to the channel, Florida Barnuminiums. And today I want to cover surveys. What do we need in a survey? So I have the receipt here for this survey and what they called it. And different surveyors call it. Some surveyors call it a topographical survey. This particular one says this is a boundary survey with an elevation benchmark and spot elevations. It's those spot elevations that we really want. That's what really matters, is that we get those spot elevations. I'm going to show you. I'm going to come around the other side of the camera and then hold this up where you can see it and try to show you what we're looking for here. So, all right, you see right there in the middle above the 100, you see 23.1, 23.2 to the right corner, 23 to the left corner. I guess it's my left, not sure. Yeah, I think when you look at it, it'll be the same. 23.1, 23, 23.2, and then 22.9 in the back corner, 22.6, 22.7, and typically they'll be more sporadically out. Typically they do more than what they did here. This is a small lot, so those are sufficient for what we need. But that's what we're looking for on a survey. We have to have that on every survey. For every build that we do, we have to have those elevations. The reason that is, even if you're in a Zone X, even if the building department says, no, you're Zone X, we don't need it, we need it because we need it for the septic engineering. So when you're getting surveys, if you're buying land, ask them for a survey with spot elevations. It's a few $100 more. And if you got to pay a few $100 more, pay the difference to get it, because otherwise you're paying for the survey to be done all over again. And you're gonna pay for the whole thing. So it's much better off to just pay the difference if it's required of you. It may not be. That when you buy the piece of property and you request it, as the market starts to cool off, it'll be a little easier. Right now it's still pretty tough. Things are moving really fast and it'll be tough to negotiate. As things cool down, it'll be a little easier to say, hey, I want spot elevations on the survey. And even if if it's a call back and say, hey, it's going to be $250, write the check and get it. Because you got to have it, and it's cheaper than doing it again. Some call it a topographical survey. I've had people come back, what did they call it? An elevation certificate. That is not what you need. That is for flood zones. We don't need an elevation certificate unless you are in flood zones. So we're just looking for those spot benchmarks so we can set finished floor height. It also allows us to set the height of the septic tank. So when we get septic engineering, they set our tank height and our drain field height, and they use these elevations off of the survey to do that. So that's what we're looking for in a survey. If you have any questions, we can guide you on that. Depending on where you're at in the state, we can recommend a surveyor. They don't serve the whole state, and they're getting kind of spotty. They apparently don't have anybody in Fort Myers right now, because I recommended them there and they wouldn't do Fort Myers, but they did Punta Gorda and they did Naples. So I don't know why they wouldn't do Fort Myers. This didn't have anybody. The other thing that you need is you need the trees marked. You notice that as I was moving this around, you can see the tree symbols on there. It's different in different places. Some places now have dropped down to where you have to mark anything over 4 inches. Survey companies should know what's necessary in your area. They do it every day. But we have to mark the trees and the type of, like here we got a 14-inch pine, a 10-inch oak. On the back of the property here, we had some palm trees. There's the back of the property. 14-inch palms, 10-inch palms. So the type of tree has to be marked. This oak tree here was, I think it was just a pin oak or something, but if you get a heritage oak, those can be very expensive to remove. And it has to be noted on the survey. And if it's noted and we're going to save it, we have to protect it, and somebody's going to inspect and make sure that we didn't remove it. So these surveys and asking for the right things is important. The other thing I see people do a lot is not get the corners staked. Boundary survey. The boundary survey, they'll stake your corners. If you paid for a boundary survey and they call you and say they're done, and you go out there and there's no stakes on the corners, they didn't do the right thing. You make sure you get the corners staked. Always stake your corners. We can take this survey, and on this piece of property, this is a small piece of property here, and we're going to be really constrained on where we can put things. You got an acre, 2 acres, 10 acres, 100 acres. You know, you've got a larger piece of property. We can set wherever we want as long as we meet setbacks. But we need those corner stakes so we can pull strings and make sure that we're meeting setbacks. So they'll also save us a little bit of money on these small properties. We're going to have the engineer stake it every time, have them come out and hub and tack it. On a large piece of property where we're well within our setbacks, we don't have to do that. We can pull our string, make sure that we're well within our setbacks, and save a couple $100 because we don't need the engineer to come stake it. All right, so my gimbal died there, so I'm going to have to hold it myself. But just to recap as we end the video, benchmarks, and so they called them, no, spot elevations. That's what they're calling it, spot elevations. The benchmarks are the corners. The spot elevations, mark your trees, and make sure they do the boundary survey. We want those stakes at the corners so that we can pull strings, see setbacks, and set up our site plan. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll charge the gimbal and do a couple more videos tomorrow. Thanks.